And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey folks, today we're taking a look at Kamisado Max. Now, Kamisado is a game that I really enjoy. It's one of my favorite abstract strategy games. So simple, move a piece, and the color you land on is the color of your opponent's piece that they move. This makes the board bigger, adds some more variance, nice package, box doesn't get too much bigger. Let's take a look at it. The board has two sides. So on one side we have regular Kamisado. In regular Kamisado, each player has dragons. Each dragon has a different symbol on it. That's a different color. The symbols are mostly just there in case you are colorblind, so they're easier to tell apart. Now on your turn, and black player goes first, you can see that they start on the color that they are. This is for a normal game, or if you're playing a longer match, that's how you start your first game. And you can take a piece and move it as far as you want in a straight line forward, or diagonally forward. So maybe I'll move this piece here. Now once I move that piece here, it lands on purple. That means my opponent must move a purple piece. So he moves here to the yellow, which means I must move a yellow piece. I move here, and I've won the game. Got my piece in the opponent's back row. Now that's a quick game. Probably he would not do that. He might move here to brown, and then I would move mine here to brown, and then he'd move his up here to pink. And then I would move my pink here to purple, and then his purple comes in for the win. So you have to be careful, you have to watch. It is possible that pieces are set up in such a way that maybe someone, if let's say he goes to blue, I can't move my blue here. So boom, now it's my turn again. Now, when you win, you reset, and the rules have a way basically of you can reset from the right or the left, and so each player is going to pull their pieces over and you start another match. And the piece that slid into the opponent's row becomes a sumo. We put a dragon's tooth in the top to show that it's a sumo, and that piece can now only move 5. But it has a rule that if there's a piece directly in front of it and it's its turn to move, you can push forward, move, and then immediately go again. And if you get your sumo piece in the opponent's end row, then you get to be a double sumo, which can push sumos around but only has 3. And then you can be a triple sumo, and you can only move 1. But if you get into your opponent's home row, you win the game. Now that makes the game much longer. Most of the time, I just play single matches, and when someone gets on the other side, they win. But these are ways that you can play longer matches if you want. You can play the first person to get 3 of these as the winner, or whatever. Now on the other side of the board, Megasado, you'll notice that there's some changes. Obviously, first of all, it's a 10 by 10 grid, which is much bigger than 64 spaces. We also have 2 new pieces, a silver and a gold. Now, this plays the same way as Kamisado, with some exceptions. First of all, a piece can never go more than 7 spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's the farthest you can go. So you can never do the move, 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 win on your very first turn thing, which is not going to happen unless you're a new player anyway. So there's also more pieces on the board, and so you just play with a bigger board. However, you can also play with some variants, and these are variants that I enjoy, that work with the silver and the gold spaces. Now you'll notice that the silver and the gold spaces are a little bit differently distributed than the others, but you can play, for example, that when you land on a silver or a gold, the next time you move that piece, so let's say yellow moves here, the next time yellow moves this piece, it has to be backwards. You can never move backwards in the original game, but this says when you're on one of these places, you have to move backward. There's also one that says when you go on one of these spaces, you're stuck, and you can never move off of it for the rest of the game. My favorite variant is the one that says when you go into one of these spaces, you can basically use it as a warp. So I can go here and warp to another silver space, as long as that silver space is farther back. So he could go 5, he could go like this. Or if he was here, he could go into this one and come out this one and keep going. And that's basically it. You can still play with the sumos and the double sumos and the triple sumos and add those pieces, and they'll still go down to 5 and 3 and 1 movement. But Megasado just basically adds a bigger board, more pieces, and some variants with the silver and gold spaces on the board. Now, as I said, Kamisado Max is a really fun game. I've always enjoyed Kamisado. I've always enjoyed the simplicity of it. All your pieces move essentially as queens that can only go forward in chess. And you move as far as you want, and then the piece that your opponent lands on. And games are not that long, but at the same time, they offer some pretty good depth. There is some, obviously the games are going to play out very similar, and so if you want to get even farther in depth of the game, you got to play to the longer games with the sumos, because then you got a piece that can only move 5, which kind of gives you a slight handicap, and you're going back and forth, and then the pieces don't start in the same colors, and that's good. And the rule book here is so detailed on this. Such a simple game, but it's written as if don't get me wrong, you can play the game really simply, like the first page is, here's the rules, go, play. But if you want to play these longer games, the rules are written so that you could play heavy tournament-style games. But I normally like to play just the one-off, so I was really happy with the Kamisado Max, or the Megasado side of the board, because that only being able to move 7, the games last a little bit longer, and then when you play the variants of those gold and silver spaces, really entertaining. Like I said, my favorite's the one where you go into a spot, and then you can warp and come out another one, because that makes the board, you have to open it up just a little bit more. In fact, I beat the designer on that board, although maybe he let me win, I don't know. And then he proceeded to thrash me in the next game. But I really enjoy just, again, the simplicity, and maybe adding in 1 or 2 rules with these silver and gold spaces and making the board bigger doesn't really mess the game up that much. In fact, it makes the game that much better. And if I want to play the regular Kamisado, that's in the box too. If you've never played this before, maybe you shy away from abstract strategy games, this is an excellent one. I cannot recommend this one enough. It has a great look to it. When you put it on the table, this has this nice stark, a little bit of a Chinese flair to it, but more so just how the pieces there, how they move. You can teach someone to play in like 30 seconds, but there's a great deal of depth into it. Just check it out. Kamisado Max. Dice Tower Judgment to my collection.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.
Shut the door.
Yeah?